Hello and welcome to everyone. Today our guest is MMA fighter Desmond Torres. Desmond, can you please say a few words about yourself for the introduction so we can continue? Go for it.
Yeah, I'm Desmond Torres. I train out of Team Oyama in Irvine, California. Got a fight record of 7-2. Fight at flyweight and bantamweight. Looking to make my way to the UFC very soon.
Yeah, I hope we will see you in a great promotion very, very much soon. Alright, when did you start training MMA as a sport, or when was the first experience with any martial art? You can reply both.
Yeah, I started training back when I was 10 years old in Manassas, Virginia, out of like a small little local gym. Just I was getting into like a little bit trouble outside of school, outside of the house, fighting around a little bit. So I figured just go into a gym and just learn how to do it properly and make it a good trait.
Outstanding. Can you please elaborate your nickname?
The Tyrant, yeah, the Tyrant started off in middle school. Actually, I started off middle school wrestling, and I was just a very aggressive wrestler. I was big into like slamming kids and doing all these things, and a lot of people end up crying or getting hurt. So we were learning about tyrancies out in history class during the time. So one of my friends actually said, "Hey Desmond, that sounds like you." So Desmond the Tyrant Torres, and I thought it kind of wrong, so I stuck to it. And ever since then, the rest is history.
Yeah, very fun nickname. Can you please describe your tattoos?
I got a tattoo of Hawaii on my chest. It's where part of my family's from. Most of my family on my mom's side's all from Hawaii. My mom and dad grew up in Hawaii. I was born in Hawaii. Ended up moving out to the mainland at a very young age, but a lot of my family represents my family and everything else.
How would you describe your fighting style? You have more submission wins, but are you a pure submission artist or you're more like mixed martial?
I find myself to be a more of a mixed martial artist. I just think like a lot of my fights end up falling to the ground or anything on the ground is just because that's just what I originally started off in. I did start off like kickboxing and everything, but I competed heavy into jiu-jitsu when I was very young, competed in wrestling. So I think a lot of my fights ended up flowing to the ground, and then that's just second nature to me. So
Can you talk your first amateur fight?
my first amateur fight, I remember my first amateur fight. I think I was 17, 16 or 17. I was just really scared about getting kicked. That's just the whole thing I remember. I was like, man, I'm gonna take a kick without a shin pad. But I ended up taking the guy down really quick. I took a few of his kicks, gave him back a little bit, choked him out, I think, in 14 or 15 seconds.
Excellent. So you had many amateur fights, but who was the toughest amateur opponent you've ever met?
Mm, I don't know. Maybe I just think I had different fights like during different times. Like I had a decision fight, the only decision fight against a guy named George Billy. But that wasn't a good fight camp. There's a lot of BS going around, and my mind just wasn't in the fight mode at that time. But I guess I would say George Billy.
Can you describe how did you feel heading into your first professional fight? You mentioned that you were afraid of getting shin kicked or so. So how was the feel?
Well, the cool thing is in the state of Virginia, amateurs is all pro rules, so you're allowed to do elbows on the ground, knees on the knees, no shin guards, no nothing. So I was scared from just my first amateur fight in general. But my first pro fight, I was just really excited because I knew it was the first step to doing what I always wanted to do since 10 years old. You know, I want to go to the UFC. Here's the start. You know, you got to start building your career, making it better. So I was really excited to get that in and start my career off.
So, how did you defeat, please if I misspell, please sorry if I misspell, Ricky Furrer?
How did I defeat him?
Yes?
Uh, Ricky, that was my first fight going to California and joining Team Oyama, but Ricky was a hard fight. I knew he was an Indiana fighter slash wrestler with a great amateur record. I believe his amateur record was like 20 plus fights and three losses, all wrestling. So He wrestled me. I had enough wrestling to at least make him tired, and enough jujitsu to uh, keep him guessing about what's going on, and more stand up than him. But I remember I clinched him, and I tie clinched, and I kneed him, and I kept kneeing him, and I opened up a big gash over his eyebrow that was bigger than a quarter. It was bigger than a quarter. I actually have pictures of it. I could send it to you after, but I have pictures of it, and the referee stopped it due to doctor stoppage. And I remember the cut guy at the end, the guy that stitches us up. He's like, "Man, I work for the UFC, Bellator, everything." He's like, "This is the second nastiest cut I've ever seen in my life."
Excellent. Your first professional loss happened against Joseph Camacho, right?
Yes.
So how did he catch you into a submission?
It was just it. Listen, I'm a very. It was just all a learning process. During that time in my career, I'm still learning things. Still to this day, I'm learning things. So that fight, I just remember the game plan was to go to the ground, but then I rushed the game plan, like set up the shot, don't just shoot wildly. And he got me into a guillotine, which I wasn't panicking. But I remember when I went to go jump to the other side that I needed to go, the fence was in the way or the cage was in the way, and that bounced off, and all the adrenaline's going. But yeah, he got me in the guillotine. I tried to jump in, just couldn't get it. And then he ended up getting it tapped.
Yeah. How did you finish Mike Hansen?
Uh, I should have. I finished him with a Kimura. He tried to fight me, and then he he went for a takedown and I ended up snapping him down, and then I Kimura'd his arm behind him.
So was it a hard submission to perform?
No, it wasn't a hard submission to perform. I almost broke his shoulder if he would have not tapped, though.
Yeah, that's okay. All right, what can you say about your fight versus Mikola Ayvazyan?
Mikola, I remember that fight. That fight was I cut down. This was the last time I cut down to 25, and I knew I was going to go against a really hard wrestler. I knew he was a Ukrainian world team member for freestyle, so I knew he was a good wrestler. But I knew that MMA is a little bit different from wrestling, and I did wrestling a long time ago, so I know it's just a little bit different, just a little bit. It's still tough. So I knew if I keep him standing, or even if he takes me down, my jiu-jitsu is better than his wrestling for that. So I ended up getting a triangle. Actually, he got a body lock, and then we went to the ground, and I triangled him. And he was digging his fingers into my nose and my eyes when he was getting choked out. But then he tapped, and the rest is all good.
So what did the referee say? Did he warn him for that or not?
No, he didn't, because he tapped. He was tapping, but right before he tapped, he was like scraping at my eyes and my nose. It was all bad.
What can you say about, well, it was Bellator debut. I assume your only one and only Bellator fight, but I hope we will see you some other day in Bellator or UFC. So what can you say about the fight?
Well, I'm just looking. It's just been a very hard process since my contender fight. It's been very hard. I tried to get one fight at 25. Something fell through. Then I finally got a good fight in LFA. Then the coronavirus came. So I'm just looking to get right back in the winning column and to start building myself. I know I can fight with the UFC guys. I know I can fight in Bellator, but I really do know I could, make something of myself in the UFC. I train with UFC. I've been training with UFC level guys since I was 16. The first time I was 16 years old, when I was 13 years old, I joined Team Lloyd Irvin. I've been helping out Mike Easton when he was going into the tough and everything. Back when I was like 14, 15, 16 years old. So I've been training with UFC level guys. I know sometimes I might lose a fight, but just like I said, I'm still just learning. I just turned 23 this year. Some guys are getting into the UFC when they're like 28. If I got into the UFC right now, I'll still be young. And I've been I've been making a pro debut since 20 years old. So I know for sure I could be in there and everything. I've seen what I've done. My coaches have seen what I've done, and my team knows what I can do. So now it's just a waiting process. I just need to get a fight, win a fight, win a fight, get in.
What can you say about your last fight? It was against Steve Garcia, right?
Yes.
So what can you say about that fight? I mean, what happened in that fight?
I think that fight is just a big learning lesson of a lot of things. It was a learning lesson of I already knew Steve. Uh, I think like a lot of it is rushing, me rushing, and it kind of sucks too because sometimes in MMA you get these short opportunities that come out of nowhere. Oh, the UFC wants you to fight in 3 days, and you're like, yeah, it's your big shot. You're not in the UFC. You're trying to go to the UFC, and you say, yeah, of course. And then, I know Steve, and I used to train with Steve a long time ago when he fought in Bellator against Joe Warren and everyone. And I knew 135 was a very hard weight cut for him. So when we fought at 135, he came in over. Now, maybe I should have, or maybe myself, or go talk to the commissioner or something, but it put on a lot of weight. And then, you know, it just was a lot to factor in. My mind wasn't, I thought I wasn't going to fight for the rest of that year or rest of that summer. And the UFC already told, because I tried to get on the contender fight 2 times before that. And they told us, hey, we're not doing 125ers this year. So I just didn't think I was even going to be on the contenders. It was just like a really quick process, but when I got into the fight, tried to take him down, then he came back up. I gave it all I got to get in, rushed it a little bit too much, then, the boxing overwhelmed, and just my stamina was already going down from all the adrenaline, whatever, but, you live to fight another day, so I'm just waiting to get one more fight, like I said, and show everyone, I'm trying to show everyone what I'm capable of. It's just hard to try to get a fight.
This would be the last question for the interview. What do you think, since you're younger fighter, if somebody joins UFC at a young age, is it good, or is it kind of, how to say, or is it too hard experience, too stressful? What do you think about that?
Mm, I don't know exactly what to think just because I'm living it. I am that. Like, I don't know if going to the, because, you get more older, you're more wise, you start, a little bit more. You know what to, not what to expect, but you're more prepared for a lot more things in life. And sometimes, like myself, I want to go to UFC. I want to go UFC right now. Maybe I'm not ready for it. I don't know. Maybe I am. Maybe I look ready in the gym, but I'm not ready out in the cage yet. But I think, but there is fighters like, like Rory McDonald was very good, came into UFC very young. And look at him, that's a legend. Jordan Meehan, I remember, was in the UFC, 18, 19 years old, did pretty good. I think it can go both ways. Like, Jordan Meehan ended up retiring very early, and then, he's not in the UFC no more. But Rory McDonald did very good. So I think it could go both ways. I think it's just really up to the person and how straight their mind is, truly.
Would you like to add something to this interview, maybe to greet someone? Is there maybe something we missed?
Yeah, I think we got everything. Maybe just a shout out to my team, Team Oyama, all my supporters. Even during these times when I'm low and out and ain't no one talking about me right now, I know I got my team behind my back and all my supporters. So I just want to say thank you to all my supporters.
Yeah, can't wait for your next fight. I hope you will fight soon, and I hope we will watch you again. Hope this COVID stuff will calm down.
Yeah, me too, bro. Me too.
Yeah, thank you for this interview. I will now start creating video. You can expect it in around 3-4 hours, okay?
Okay, sounds good.
Alright, thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thanks. You too.